y'all? Welcome to the Dope Life Podcast, the dopest podcast ever. And I'm, of course, your host, Coach AJ, Dope Life Coach, the dopest life coach ever. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode, so that someone just like you can learn to live and love a dope life. And, of course, we talk about self-confidence, self-care, and all of that good stuff in between. So today, I have a great special guest to talk about something I think that a lot of us have on our head, which is home ownership, which could cause a lot of stress and all of that in between. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about entrepreneurship as well. So I guess like these days, many of us are like, we want to own a home, but we don't know like how to do it right away. And it's becoming harder and harder. So I would love to welcome Siobhan to the Dope Life Podcast. How are you doing? How you living? How are you feeling today?
I am doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me on your show, the Dope Life Show, because I'm aspiring to have a dope life too. Let's go.
Let's go through it. So before we get right into it, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then, we'll get right into it. Introduce yourself to the people.
Awesome. Thank you. So my name is Siobhan Brent. I am a proud boy mom of an almost 11-year-old. I am a mortgage broker by day, I like to say, and have been for over 20 years. And I'm also a financial coach. I started coaching moms on how to manage their money, how to make more money, and how to multiply their money so that they can invest in real estate. Maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, I actually made that a service. But I'm also a podcast host of the Mama Means Business podcast. Yay! So we in company.
We're in good company. We're in good company. So like you mentioned that you do mortgage broking, and you're trying to help moms kind of tap into more financial health.
Yes.
And also, which is important nowadays, right? Like we're about to hit a whole recession, but in all fairness, I feel like we have not exited that very first one back in 2008. But that's just me.
Come on now. Yeah. We're
I
still
don't feel, and
recuperating.
we're still recuperating. I remember I was like a preteen or maybe a teenager at that time, and I remember a recession. I didn't really quite understand it, but
Right.
eventually I saw the severity of it through the economy and things closing.
Mm-hmm.
But like now I'm 35, and I'm like, when did we ever come out of that? Because
Right.
things really still feel the same. So
They do.
if a person
For different households. Mm-hmm.
for different for different households, I'm not gonna say like it's not for everyone, but like I was even watching another podcast and they were talking about how the interest rates have recently gone up here in Canada, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, yeah, I know I got the money to drop another 2-3 G's if I need to,
Right.
but I can't imagine if I didn't have the platform or the income I have to drop these 2-3 G's.
Exactly.
What I be like what would I be really doing? Like what me and my wife would be really doing? And we got kids like this. I can understand people's frustration because yes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking in a place of privilege, but at the same time, he said I can't help but think like what an average person, like how are they making it work?
Right.
So be that has been said, but what got you to the decision of being a mortgage broker, becoming one, and like
Mm-hmm.
how long total have you been doing it?
Wow. So how I got into the industry was literally by an opportunity, being in the right place at the right time. But what introduced me to real estate was a decision that I had made at the young age of 23. See, I'm the eldest of 3 children, raised by a teenage mom. And I saw firsthand how it was hard for her to do for us, but also to do for herself. And so by seeing that, I knew that I just wanted to live life differently. Even though I didn't have like a path or even a plan, I just knew that I didn't want to do the things that she did and experience what she was experiencing. So when I came of age, I decided that I wanted to leave home. And again, with very little knowledge or an example of what homeownership was, I knew that if I left my home or her home, I would do one of two things. I would either rent and pay somebody else, or I would buy and pay myself. And so I made the decision to buy and pay myself without any knowledge, without any understanding of what real estate really meant and what it could do for your financial future. 2 years after purchasing the property, an opportunity to join a mortgage team fell into my lap, and I said yes, and I haven't looked back, and it's been 23 years.
23 years. And you kind
Yeah.
of said something that's kind of cool. Like, it was just being at the right place at the right time. And sometimes it be like that. It just
Mm-hmm.
be like your alignment is you just being at the right place at the right time. And sometimes, and I say this all the time, like we'd be like, yeah, I really don't feel like going that place because it's uncomfortable in terms of like I have to do something or it's a little bit out of my
Right.
comfort zone. And then you go and you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
this actually, like not talking about safety. I just mean like maybe you're like, God, it's a little bit out of the box. Like this is not something I would normally do. And then you go and you're like,
Right.
wow, look what
You
it
were
aligned
supposed to
to
do
it.
it.
You were
Right. Mm-hmm.
supposed to do it. Like your alignment was there. And I think it's pretty cool that I think we look at our parents and we say, okay, yeah, we see what they did, but we want to elevate. And we want to constantly have the generation after us to elevate beyond us as well. Like constantly keep
Absolutely.
moving that bar. And you did that. You said, okay, I see
Mm-hmm.
my mom doing this. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this, and then that. And I think that's pretty dope. That's definitely dope.
Thank you.
But what is most important for you being in your current role?
Right now, and has been for the last few years, let me say, even since I've had my son, because I saw life differently before I was a mom, right?
I'm sure.
What I didn't know before was um it wasn't so much as not wanting to be like my mom. It was just knowing that there was other information out there that she didn't have, that so she couldn't make the right decision. So I was now going
Right.
to access information that could give me a different result. And so after I had my son, uh, I knew that I had to make things different again, right? So it was different for myself before, but now it's I have to make things different for him, and not just today, not just tomorrow, but like 15, 20, 30 years from now. Um and while I was working on that for me, I'm a believer, and I know that everyone has an assignment and everyone has a calling that they are placed here to fulfill. And with my experience with my mom, now me being a mother, which is a whole nother story, but me being a mother,
It's
I
all
knew
good.
that
It
what
all
is
it all aligns, yo.
it
It
all
all
worked out,
aligns.
right? It all worked out.
Yeah.
I knew that my purpose was greater than the job, because I was doing mortgages as a job. It was much more than that. And so I created a community called the Mortgages for Moms Community. We're an online platform where I focus on educating moms about money management, about credit and debt, about investing, not only in real estate, but even in the very simplest as savings account. Having the right accounts can help your money work harder for you than you work for it. So that would be I would say, is the most important thing for me, people understanding how money works and how what we've been taught through the traditional means is not always best for us and our family.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be the most important thing for me.
I get that because I remember one time my mother told me I was like in my early 20s, I think. I was like, Ma, I think I'm gonna get a GIC. This lady cussed me up and down. No, don't get the GIC. You like your money and you don't get nothing in the end. Da, 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 da. And I was just like, okay. So for years, I was like, I'll never get GIC. And then
Mm-hmm.
one day, like this year, I called up my bank. I was just like, hey, yo, like, just curious. I don't understand the interest rates are up, but someone kind of told me that it benefits when you have money to like put it aside and stuff. And they're like, oh, yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
come in and we'll talk about it. They said GIC. I'm like, you know what? My mama said it's not a good idea. And they're like, okay, how old's your mother? I said, technically, she's 35 years older than me. They're like, so 35 years older than you. When did you talk to her about it? I was like, oh, I was in my 20s. Do you
Mm-hmm.
see the age gap difference? I was
Right.
like, yeah. He's like, you see the time difference? I was like, okay. He's like,
Yeah.
you can't match them. He's like, right. They said, like, right now is the perfect time to do something like that. And it's just kind
Mm-hmm.
of having those conversations and educating yourself,
Right.
even though it may work for them at that time.
Mm-hmm.
This we're talking years later.
Right.
You can actually start looking into the finances that will work for you and your family or just for you. Because, hey, let's keep it a buck. Finances could also cause stress, you know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right? If our finances is not in aligned, we get what? We get stressed out because we're
Mm-hmm.
using other resources or whatever we have. Like, and nowadays, if you look, people are upset with grocery costs and
Yep.
gas costs and just overall just living,
Just
just
living.
overall
Yes.
just living. So
Yes.
like you offering that service to help people manage a savings account, I think it's so crucial because I hate to say it, I don't think that stuff is really taught.
It absolutely
And
is not taught.
it's not it's not taught, it's not explained, which is kind of mind-boggling to me, especially when it comes towards high school. I think that they
Hmm.
should have implemented personal finance so that
It's
people
a
knew how
life
to write a
skill.
people
Hmm.
knew how to write a check, balance their accounts, knew what was this, knew what a tax-free savings account, knew what this was. Like
Right.
those types of information is crucial for your day-to-day living. Algebra,
Absolutely.
all fair and game, is not
Listen. I can't even listen.
to this day. You know, you was I mean, I use fractions if I'm cooking or something, like
And I don't
and
even. I'm old
baking.
school Jamaican. With little of this, dash of that. I don't do any measurements. Okay, so
No,
all of
I mean
that
like
was
if
pointless.
I'm if all right, but if you're baking though.
I don't bake, so there we go.
Okay, see, I bake, so I have to use a local measuring cake because the last measuring spoons and stuff. Because the last thing you want to do is put too much of this and too much of that. So, but yeah, I get it. I just do it as my partner says. You just do it as the ancestors tell you to stop. And I say, yeah, I do it as if my mama would be would be stopping. Like I think she stopped right
Exactly.
about here. But yeah,
Right?
it's just the
Eyeball
combination
it.
of yeah, no doubt. The combination of what you're providing, I think, is so crucial. But I want to ask, considering like your focus on helping women with their finances, what highlight have you had so far with doing such work? Because that's great work that you're doing.
Hmm. I would say the greatest highlight has really been witnessing these mothers feel more confident in managing their money. We've been conditioned to live paycheck to paycheck. Once we get our check, then we decide what needs to be done, right?
Mm,
Pay the rent or, and then maybe if there's anything left, then we'll save, right? Well,
right.
teaching these women um to prioritize their money, right? You're the one that actually has to go out and work. And if you don't work, no money's
No
coming
money
in,
now coming in.
right?
Yeah.
So understanding that paying yourself first, making sure that you're not living off of credit debt because every dollar that you pay towards a Visa, MasterCard, Fairstone, yes, I'll call their names, right? Those Capital One, those
I was like,
companies.
who is Fairstone?
Yeah, we won't get into that. That's another podcast
Okay.
episode. But your finance companies that will give you extend credit to you but are charging you enormous amounts of interest, and we don't
Mm,
understand that. Yes, if you can make the minimum payment, sure, that's going to keep your credit abreast, but you're throwing your money at the banks and they're the ones that are reporting billion-dollar profits every 3 months. Like, that doesn't work for you and that doesn't work for your family. So having these conversations, like laying it out, like, this is what you got to do this first, then you do this first, and then you do, like, just breaking it down to them and them
hmm
actually feeling confident that when they get their checks already have a plan, right? They're not working
hmm
behind the clock. So that, I would say, that's my greatest um uh what did you call it? That
Highlight.
makes highlight. That's my greatest highlight. And
Highlight, yeah.
just having the basic conversations about money that many of us did not have.
And I think also being like we're both Jamaican descent, I don't think that these conversations was really had with our parents. We saw them pay the bills. We
Absolutely.
witnessed them do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
will say one of the things that my mom did, and I look back now, and I know I'm speaking of a little bit of a place of privilege, but it taught me money management. My mom
Mm-hmm.
gave me a allowance. Each
Mm-hmm.
week I got $25. And what she said to me was this: whether you use the money or don't use the money, that's up to you.
Right.
Your lunch will be here. Your dinner is always here. But if there's a day that you're saying, I want to go buy myself a little slice of pizza, by all means. If you have
Right.
money left at the end of the week, not a problem. And I was just
Mm.
like, so I don't have to spend it all the time. And she's like, no. Okay, bet. So I would
Yeah.
like hold money over for the next week. Me and my best friends will
Right.
go grab like a 1-2 cheeseburger here and there. I'm like, all right, Friday we'll go get it. Cause mom's not cooking on no Friday. So like we do little
This is
that.
it.
Like, yeah, and she taught me how to save.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really realize it until like became I got my job and I was like, oh yeah, let me put a little money aside. I just didn't quite catch what she was doing.
Right. Basic principles. Right.
Basic principles she was teaching me.
Right.
Till this day, I got stuff that comes out of my account. I don't see it. I don't care.
Yeah. Paying yourself first.
Listen. doesn't phase me. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay. I don't count. I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. But it's because of that practice from when I was like 12, 13, 12 maybe. And
Right.
like,
And logic, knowing that if you had $25 and you blew it on, by Tuesday, what are you gonna do for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
but also think about it. Back then in like late 90s, early 2000s, if you're really spending $25 a week, like
Yeah.
candy was like 5 cents.
Right?
Let's keep so like if you're really bucking $25 a week, something's not right. Like for real. The
True,
only thing,
true.
yeah, yeah. The only thing I regret was I wish I kept. I only have a few of them, but the old $5 bills. I wish I
Mm-hmm.
kept more of them because obviously now they're not the same anymore. But
Right.
yeah, no, like if you really, like I said, I remember this one place I used to go to by my elementary school. The cheeseburgers were $2.
Come on
two
now.
bucks.
Yep.
Like, there's no way I'm gonna spend $25. If I did, I got some serious money management problems. If you really think about it, like, wait, what? My mom would look at me cockeyed, like, you spent $25 in a week? Yeah,
Right.
buy slushies, candy. She'd be like, we need to talk.
We need to
we
talk
would,
for sure. I'm
we
sure
would
she would
need
have
to.
adjusted it. But real talk, like it's like even she, sometimes they say they give you enough rope to hang yourself. So she knew if you did spend it off, then you.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. I think she was testing me on it at first to see
Mm-hmm.
how I would handle it. But then when she said, like, you don't look, food's always gonna be here, so you don't gotta worry about buying food. I was like, okay, so food's always gonna be here. Okay, that's fine.
Right.
Like we're good. Like I got nothing to worry about. I got nothing to
Right.
worry about. What is one of the like how do you balance your mental health being an entrepreneur, a mom, a mortgage broker, a financial that's a lot of hats, a daughter, a sister, an eldest one at that. Like
At
how
that.
at
Right.
that. I mean, I'm the youngest. I know how what
Oh
y'all go
boy.
through. Taking care of the rest of us. We love you and respect you. I got an older sister. I love and respect. Shout out to my sister March.
Shout
But
out,
yeah,
Marge.
like shout out to my sister March. But yeah, no, for real. Like, how do you balance your own mental health within all of that?
So one, I have this love-hate relationship with the word balance because I don't feel like it's ever even possible to attain like a
Mm,
real balance. Um, I will say, pre-pandemic,
mm,
I've just always been that go-getter, right? Even after having my son, it was just do what I gotta do. So I really didn't take notice of my mental health. I was just doing what I had to do whenever I had to do it, sleep when I needed to sleep when I could sleep, and just kept it going. But it wasn't until we were confined to our homes, my son was in school, that I realized that I needed a mental health break.
mm,
Doing the online schooling, I could teach an adult money, but a 6-year-old, it just wasn't happening. It wasn't happening.
yeah.
And so what I do now is I take my breaks. Like if I need to send him away to an auntie, to his dad, wherever, upstairs, like away from me, I will do that. Getting rest also is something that as I said, I didn't really prioritize. And so getting rest for me does wonders. If I can get a good,
Mm,
and it doesn't even have to be 8 hours, but some days it might even be 10. But if my body's telling me that I'm tired, I'm getting rest. Um, Also, I'm learning now because I'm an introvert, so I kind of like to be by myself and not really talk to anyone. Being the older sister and having to take care of the younger siblings, but I like prioritize my alone time. But I'm now learning how important having community um,
mm,
is. So having people around me who, if I need encouragement, can encourage me. If I need to pray, can pray with me. If I just need to like vent, I can vent with. So I would say those are the tools that I've been using
mm-hmm.
to manage the mental health when I realize that some extra attention needs to be taken.
I like that approach. I think you know what? Whenever I ask these type of questions, people always say, "Well, COVID," and I'm like, "Yeah, COVID really forced us to sit down and really look at
Be with
ourselves
ourselves. Yep.
and be
Mm-hmm.
with our thoughts, like heavy, and
Heavy.
really figure out, okay, I'm stuck in here. Well, what am I doing with my life? Like it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people ask themselves that question, but you had a
Mm-hmm.
key point that I want to point out to parents. It's okay to create boundaries with your children. Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. And you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to know something? They understand. If you just
Yeah.
say, look, I need a couple minutes real quick,
Mm-hmm.
most of them be like, all right, cool. Like, I'll
Well,
go.
that's also something that you got to teach them.
I mean, it takes over time.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Let me rephrase. It does take over time. But
Mm-hmm.
once they under, because I remember my mama used to work nights. And Friday nights, don't bother my mom because she
Mm-hmm.
worked Sunday through Thursday night.
Right.
I didn't bug her. We didn't ask her questions. She was sleeping she would try to stay awake on the couch, but she would always fall asleep. And we
Right.
would leave her be. And it was just, mom's tired.
Mm-hmm.
Mom's tired. It's cool. Give her space and give her respecting that boundary. I think that's super important to teach your kids that, not just for them to respect your boundary, but to also for them to know boundaries. Because I don't think we
Whew,
knew
that's it
them,
right there. We
right?
had none. Yeah. What was
We
boundaries? Don't cross
boundaries. What
the
are you
street.
talking about?
There was
Yeah,
no boundaries.
you talking about what boundary? We didn't have a boundary. It's because I said so was the answer. Like
Come on now. That's literally what it is. Comes out
there
a
was
bit,
no
sometimes.
like
But yes, we've
I'm
expanded our
sure
vocabulary.
you like I remember I got older, I'm like, Ma, no disrespect. But when you said because I said so, do you know what you did to my psyche? Because I'm like, but why? Like but
Listen,
I'm
that was
sitting there
law.
like
And you couldn't
I was
question
like,
it.
you couldn't because if you'd be like, but she like
Right. You couldn't question it.
you
Yeah.
could not question it. So I'm like, but Ma, like next time, like just let me just ask. And then if it's the grandkids now, I'm like,
Right. You'd be like, who are you? What?
oh
Yeah.
no. I'm like, oh no.
Thank you
But
for evolution. We've grown.
for
We've grown.
real, I'm glad I'm blessed for that. But yeah, I think that a lot of us had to sit back and really prioritize ourselves. And when you said when you sleep, there's too many of us that sleep on sleep. All
Mm-hmm.
right. We don't pay attention to no look, I know people say we need to have about 8 hours. I don't always have 8 hours myself.
Right.
But if I sleep hard, I wake up, I'm like, all right, let's seize the day. I'm Gucci. Let's
Yep.
go. And
Mm-hmm.
I could get a good night's sleep sometimes, even with 6. Don't ask me, but I'm in. And when I'm gone, I'm gone.
It's about
And it works.
conditioning too, right?
It
Yeah.
works. Yeah, it works for me. But
Right.
we need to start prioritizing our rest and quality sleep. Good
Good
quality
sleep.
sleep. Which
Mm-hmm.
sometimes requires y'all to put this
Well, this is
ting
what I was gonna say. I was gonna say to
away
you
before bed.
that during COVID, why we were able to really look into ourselves is because 99% of our distractions were removed.
Yeah.
All we had left was the device. And I mean,
And
nobody,
this.
right. And nobody can really just be on your phone also. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No sir.
so no driving, no appointments, no meet. Like, you couldn't do all of that. So once all
No.
of those distractions were removed, we were literally forced to really have what we would call a steady medi with yourself.
And
Right?
remember, I'll never forget the day because I was at work. I'll never forget it. I was working at a subway station, and I'll never forget it. You just saw Friday night, everybody was panicking. And I was just like, what's going on? Because A, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not allowed to be on my phone when I'm at work, and B, I had no
Mm-hmm.
reception to even check. So I was just like, oh, walk on. And then I say, yo, what's going on? They're like, oh, they're shutting down the city. And I'm like, shutting down the what? What do you mean?
Sounds like a movie.
Yeah. And I'll never forget the time in between those however long it was, a couple months when nobody was outside.
Yeah.
Like I would come to work and because I had no choice but to still show up,
Right.
and I would just see like nobody. Couple
Yeah.
people like that were unhoused and homeless and trying to figure out themselves what's going on, and I'm like, yo,
Right.
I don't know much neither, my friend.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure it out and make it. But the blessed part, as you said, like nobody could leave. Yo, I got to work in 15 minutes every time.
Let's
And
focus on the positives, okay,
I
AJ?
was downtown. Yeah, I'll never forget it. I was working downtown, and that drive used to take me 30 to 40 minutes. Each time 15 minutes. I was like, all right, yo, so, and gas was cheap. Like there was some yo, but the only thing I disliked was certain, like you said, we were removed from certain things, and certain things that I enjoyed quite changed. Like I used to enjoy going to the grocery store in peace. All of
Mm-hmm.
that changed. Um, I became the person to go to Costco for my family,
Mm-hmm.
because my brother and his wife was pregnant at the time. My parents are elderly, so you're out there in the city. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. I'll drop off stuff at my parents. I'll say, hey, this is for grandma. Like it was just, but that moment also showed me that a lot of us don't really realize how great technology is because it still keeps us connected within each other,
Absolutely.
and we can use it. We
Mm-hmm.
can use it, but it also remind us again for us to sit down and really think
Absolutely.
and show gratitude. I
Mm-hmm.
think a ton of people showed a lot of gratitude in between those moments
Yeah.
because it happened so quickly,
Yeah. Yeah.
so quickly.
It
But
was
yeah,
so life
no,
changing. Yes, for sure.
it was life changing.
Mhm.
So let's get back into our discussion about a bit of mortgage brokers and real estate too a bit because as you know, as people of color, it's sometimes we have stigmas when it comes
Mm-hmm.
towards us renting or even owning, to be very
Absolutely.
honest.
Mm.
So what kind of advice and encouragement would you give anyone that is gone through that, or preparing to even look into purchasing or even renting, because that happens as well.
Okay. So well, I'll start by saying always focus on yourself, right?
Mm,
And the things that you know you need to do to help you get ahead, whether it is to purchase a property or to find a new place to live, right?
mm-hmm,
Some of the things that are very important in the process, of course, is income, right? No matter whether you're buying or you're renting, whomever you're asking for, the space or the loan, they want to know that you can
mm-hmm,
afford their space, right? So
mm-hmm,
focusing on your income, making sure that you are financially stable, right? And I know that everyone needs some place to live, but in
yeah,
order to live someplace, you got to have some fun. So making sure that your income is as stable as possible, and don't limit yourself with respect to your income. That's a
mm,
conversation that I have a lot with the ladies is like, you know, we want to accomplish all these financial goals, yet we become complacent with the income that we earn. And let me put numbers to that context. If you earn, $60,000 in the greater
mm-hmm,
Toronto area, that doesn't get you very far in the real estate aspect. And if you're purchasing or you're renting, sorry, and you have children, it's still like it's just as expensive, right? So if
yeah,
you want more, you want to be able to do more, focus on bumping up that income. In terms of the racial divide, as a people, we are a little bit behind in terms of the wealth creation using real estate, but I don't think we should use that as a crutch. We still have opportunities available to us, but we
mm-hmm,
still have to do our part. So, of course, making sure that we're earning adequate income, making sure that we're not living off of debt, right? Using debt or credit to help us and not hurt us. The system is designed to just extend credit to us without giving us, the educational platform to learn how to use it. Credit doesn't help
mm-hmm,
us, credit helps the lenders, right? But what has happened, as you mentioned earlier, the price of food, the price of gas, all of those things have increased, but incomes have not increased. So what has
mm-hmm,
happened is that so many people are now leaning to their credit to fill that gap.
mm-hmm,
And what are the lenders doing? Increasing your limits as long as you're making your minimum payments, right? But it's
mm,
for lack of knowledge why they're doing that. We're driven by the higher credit scores, we're driven by the increased limits without being asked if we want to do it, right? Those things kind of appease our emotions, and we think, wow. But then you know what happens? Life happens, and then we're forced to use that credit, and now we're juggling lifestyle, we're juggling debt, and then we're still also trying to get ahead, and then we get defeated. So understanding that, the numbers matter, right? So making sure
Yeah.
that you're doing what you can do to make sure that your money that you're earning is working for you to get you ahead and not helping somebody else, i.e.
You touched on something so important there, which I've even learned more this year, especially like within. I'm just gonna speak on behalf of our community, the Jamaican community. When a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us, when our parents and grandparents came here, credit was still new, but also nobody wanted to touch it.
Right.
Let's keep it 100% buck.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wanted to touch it. And now what I've learned and been educating myself more in this year is how many entrepreneurs and businesses
Mm-hmm.
use it to grow. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, so there's ways around it, which
Mm-hmm.
I was unaware because I had that fear in my head, like, nah, man, we can't use it because this. And then the more I read books, and the more I listened to podcasts, the more research I've done. I'm like, wait, most of them build the majority of your business off of credit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm not getting biblical here, but the Bible does say people will perish because of lack of knowledge. So old school, right? They understood that if they bought real estate, that was a great thing, but they
Right.
stopped their education there,
Yep.
right? And their objective was buy a house and pay off the mortgage. But the truth is, when you pay off a mortgage and you have this house, there's nothing that you can do with it. Like, you don't get
Yeah.
to benefit from those fruits unless you sell the property, right?
Yeah.
And so what we should have been doing was leveraging credit. So yeah, you buy your house. Like my clients, I teach them, like, the objective is to never just buy one property, right? So you buy
Hmm.
a house, right? How our market works, real estate works through appreciation. As you borrow your money and you make your payments, your loan depreciates or reduces, but your property value appreciates, right? That's how come home prices are the way they are. When my
Right.
grandparents bought their house in down at College Park, Parkdale, they paid
Oh,
$25,000,
wow.
right? $25,000. But when they passed and the family sold it, that sold for like $1.3 million.
Yeah.
And I personally
25.
25,000. And it wasn't even upgraded when it was
I
sold.
believe
It
it.
was
I believe
bare
it.
minimum, right? So this is what real estate does. And so had they had the knowledge, they could have bought each of their 9 children a home by leveraging
Yeah.
other
Taking
people's
it up the
money.
taking up the
Right.
equity and
Right. So we're not taught about that. And then come um now where we're buying homes only with the mindset of, I want to buy a house. I want, the 4-bedroom house, one room for all of my children. But, the numbers aren't numbering, right? So it's really just understanding
sorry, not the
that
numbers aren't numbering.
the numbers aren't numbering. It's going to take that much longer because of housing prices, because of income amounts,
Right.
to really leverage real estate to build wealth. So you have to be strategic in making sure that you're understanding the power of, the dollar, the power of interest, compound interest, making it work for you and not for the bank. Like, all of those little things are factors into moving us ahead, right? And so getting the right information, getting the right education, someone who is speaking with professionals, right?
Mhm.
Um, outside of the traditional institutions, which is another old school thought that, you got to go to the bank, you got to go to the
You
bank.
have to
I
go
don't,
to the bank. Yeah.
the bank does not work for you. The bank works for themselves. And this is why there's mortgage brokers, there's independent agents that can give you um, an unbiased perspective, right? When you go to
Hmm.
the bank can only sell you what they offer, that one institution. As a mortgage broker, I have access to over 50 different types of lenders, right? So wherever you are, you can find
Hold on. Let's
financing
pause
or
for
an
a
opportunity.
second, y'all. Listen to what she just said.
Oh,
As a mortgage broker, she has 50 other options.
hmm.
Okay. Like, just understand, like, I think the importance of this part that you're saying is we need to start looking beyond what our parents did.
Absolutely.
you know. But
Absolutely.
they laid out us a little bit of a foundation so that we could
Mm-hmm.
see and say, okay, now we got to start continuously educating ourselves
Mm-hmm.
because yo, things are moving every day. And I know
Absolutely.
you don't want to become overwhelmed, but there's always we got something called the internet. And
Oh yeah.
there's a couple of things called YouTube, Google, and believe it or not, TikTok, where people
Mm-hmm.
are giving this info. These are all search engines. People are
Mm-hmm.
giving this information to you. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's podcasts like mine or Siobhan's where you can learn these things.
Absolutely.
All right?
You're
It's
right.
a little education is powerful.
Powerful. But I will add to what you're saying, coach, is that they still need to have a conversation,
I ain't
right?
saying that.
Because right? No, we still have to have a conversation with the professional because there's so much information out there. How do you know
Yeah.
what is right for you?
That and all I'm saying is look around. You don't gotta
Yeah.
just do what our parents did.
Right.
There's other options. There's other ways that you can pull it. And I think that's the key part about it. We don't
Mm-hmm.
got to do the same way our parents did. They laid out the little bit of a blueprint,
The foundation. They set the
the
foundation, right?
foundation. Yeah, they gave us a little blueprint. Now we can start adding more to that blueprint, and it's cool.
Absolutely.
Don't
Yep.
be afraid to do it.
Don't
Sorry
be
to put
afraid
you
to
off
do
there,
it.
but when you
No,
said the
not at all.
50 number, I was like, a lot of people don't know that.
You're right.
They
Options, especially when it
options.
comes to such an investment, right? A mortgage or
Mm-hmm.
buying real estate. That's the largest transaction that you will probably ever make in your life, right?
Others.
Do you want to take the first offer that you get? Do you want to just, leave your family's financial legacy in the hands of a biased representative?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question too. It's a very, very good question. Because yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
And
And it's just
also
it's
one
go
no,
ahead.
sorry, you go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Just understanding that what you do, what the choices you make are going to benefit your family. So
Yeah.
having access to different information will only help you. When you go to particular institutions, their objective is profit.
Period. Yeah.
Yeah.
Their objection. Okay, I got two more questions for you. The first question I have is we got, like you said, your grandparents, uh, they passed on and they bought their house for 25K when they first got here. And
Mm-hmm.
it sold for 1 point whatever. What I think 1.3 you said.
Mm-hmm.
Do you because now we have some generations now that are, their parents are passing on and they have property perhaps. Would you suggest them keep the property or would you suggest them doing something like you did and selling the property? Now I understand it depends because
Really? Yeah.
it could be too many cooks in the kitchen, as they would say, too many people
Mm-hmm.
involved, and it's just like sell, split, and call it a day. But ideally, what would you suggest in both angles?
Well, I do believe that it depends on what the goal is of the family, right? I can
Mm-hmm.
say that we should be planning for generational wealth, but you may not buy into that concept, right? But as a culture, as a family member, as a parent, as a patriarch or matriarch of your family, why wouldn't you want to create generational wealth? And so, if the numbers make sense, I would suggest that you keep that property, leverage it, but keep it.
Mm-hmm. Leverage it, take the equity out,
Buy
do
more
your own
property,
thing, buy more property.
buy more property, right? Once you understand uh, the true real estate game rules, then you'll know that that's what you're supposed to do. Buy
Just all in the
one,
education.
leverage. Buy one, leverage. Buy another. Buy two. Buy three. Right? And just keep the system going.
Okay, okay. And the last question I ask everybody this. What makes you feel the most dope?
Oh, geez. Okay. What makes me feel the most dope? The most? That's a hard question, actually.
What makes you
You
feel
know what?
dope?
I think so. Outside, as I said, my personal life and my professional life have intercommingled. Like, so they're like one and the same, right? And so anything that I do, it's really to help you make a positive change in your life, whether that be financially, whether that just be, again, with your confidence. Like, my goal is to make you be, do, and have more. And so when I get feedback that something I've said, maybe something I've taught, something I've shared has made an impact in your life, makes me feel really dope.
Yeah. Can I tell you though, this conversation was so dope because we don't talk about finances as often as we should, especially within our community. So I want to say thank you so much for stopping by on this episode. I
Thank you
truly
for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
This was a great conversation, and I hope that you, the listeners or the viewers, gain some knowledge out of it. Especially if you're looking on your own, embarking your own property or whatever it is that you're trying to do financial gain, and go ahead and follow. I'm going to put your information in the description, so you go ahead and follow her, link with her, hit her up. Check out her podcast as well. And thank you all for tuning in again. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to the Dope Life Podcast. I greatly appreciate it. I'm, of course, your host, Coach AJ. Walk with peace and love.